Welcome, everyone. I am so glad that you are tuned in and coming in. We have a special guest by the name of Hick. For those that know him, he is a relationship coach, a husband, and content creator on YouTube and Instagram and other social media platforms. So today we are kind of getting into the relationship talks. But without further ado, I cannot go into this without you guys. And without our special guest, let's give him a warm welcome. All right. Welcome, Mr. Hick. What do you want me to address you as? Kev or Hick? What?
Kev is fine.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad that you came on our platform today just to kind of share with us, the awesome things that you do. And just very welcome that you spent the time to come out with us today.
Pleasure, no complaints.
Awesome. Well, usually when I kind of start off, I usually start with just a little word of prayer because, this is a family channel. So, we have all sorts of people that come through and just kind of give a little blessing, on you as the guest and as the people who tune in.
Yeah, appreciate that.
No problem. Well, dear Heavenly Father, just want to give you thanks for allowing Mr. Kev Hick to come on our platform just to share his knowledge and just his expertise to us, dear God. We ask that anyone who tune in are blessed by the knowledge he has and that he's going to share with us. In his name, amen. All right, we're going to get into it. First of all, how was your week? How is everything going? We're coming close to the holidays. Just general.
Oof, it's been a lot. It's been a lot going on in my family. We actually lost two family members in the last 2 weeks. So it's been one of those like phases. But I think that both of them got an opportunity to really say their goodbyes. Both had a long, like 11-week hospital. Kind of seen it coming. It wasn't one of those wake up and so hear the tragedy. It was like we were preparing for a while, and so we are dealing with those two losses, but we're also blessed. We're also experiencing some growth and some change in life that is very positive and very welcoming. And like I said, life is lifing, right?
Yeah.
I got a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. It's Christmas time. We're the family that hosts Thanksgiving and Christmas, and so we've had fun as well, hosting our family and preparing for Christmas. My wife is extremely festive.
Beautiful.
It's 62 days of Christmas here. Like on November 1st, she's like, "Where's the tree? We got to put the tree out." Like we don't get any breaks. So we've been really enjoying the holiday season, and this is everybody's favorite time of year. So it's been good. As much as it's been kind of challenging and difficult to a degree, it's also been very good and positive.
That's a blessing. Well, my condolences to the family, and also, it's great that your mate, is super excited because the kids always want that excitement.
Yeah, my son loves, and he loves Halloween too. That's also his favorite. So this time was big for us.
I get that. Well, that's great. Well, shout out to wifey for making the magic happen at the home.
She makes it really pretty around here. So
What's that?
She makes it really pretty. The house is like well decorated. A little bit of porch wars going on. We got a new neighbor that's apparently trying to compete with our porch, and I don't know. They're ill-equipped. My wife has got to win that one every time. So,
hands down. Well, that's great. That's awesome that you guys celebrate, this time of year. It's always great to have something to look forward to and to, put in all those, effort into those festivities. That's awesome. And then coming together with your family. You say you're the family that hosts all of these events. That's like my cousin Mumi. She's the one that, one of the cousins that anytime when it comes to Christmas, Thanksgiving, she's hosting, everybody goes over, we eat till our belly full, and then we play competitive games.
Yeah.
At the end of it.
Yeah, I love. We used to have big Monopoly wars and Sorry and Uno and all the board games and stuff. My family doesn't do that as much. I think we need to start that. Bring the board games out after Christmas meal, Thanksgiving meal. That would probably be a good thing. That's how I grew up, though. Loving that part of Christmas and Thanksgiving.
That's sweet. That is sweet. And you kind of touched on how I kind of like to start a lot of my interviews, just kind of going into like your childhood, how you grew up. Because a lot of times what I've realized is that what we experience in our childhood, a lot of times that leaks into what makes us today.
Yeah.
So, it'll be great. Can you share a little bit about your childhood, where you're from, first of all, and
Yeah.
where you are currently, and just give us a little enlightenment as to how you grew up.
Yeah. So I'm from Dayton, Ohio.
Okay.
Grew up in I suppose, a challenged environment. Uh,
Mm,
my mom struggled with alcoholism,
mm,
and consequently, as she was in recovery and out of recovery and in recovery and out of recovery, clean and sober, I spent a lot of my childhood in AA. Right, I
oh,
was a 5 year old in the basement of a church on a Tuesday night at night,
mm,
listening to the life story of an addict. And if we couldn't find Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, we found Narcotics Anonymous meetings. But we
mhm,
made meetings when she was
good.
in. And so me and my coffee, I don't know why I got a 5 year old drinking coffee. Everybody else was drinking coffee. But coffee on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights and sometimes Monday nights. And whenever we could catch a meeting and my mom was in recovery, I'd be really spending my time learning about the very adult and very traumatic experiences of other people that led them to addiction. And
Mm,
that from that point, from the time I could understand the concepts around me that were being spoken about, I developed I believe, a heart of empathy. And I always thought, well, what would have happened if people were able to prevent the experiences that led them to drink, led them to do drugs, or
mhm,
everything they were into, right? Those
right.
were my favorite meetings because they were people standing up for about an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, talking about their whole life story and how they addiction path and how they recovered from it. Because to do a lead meeting, you have to be recovered, you have to be in recovery, right? You have to be uh,
Yeah.
years past the addiction, and now at that sponsorship level, helping other people. So at the redemption story over and over. But in my mind, even as a 5 year old, I would just be thinking, man, that was
Mm,
right. And I realized that relationships were always the start of an addict story. The mom
mhm,
relationship, or the father and son, the father and daughter relationship, the mom and son, the mom and daughter relationship, and or the people that the step parents, or the people that the parents were dating that brought abuse.
right.
Relationships were always the catalyst for a person's challenges that were
Mm,
struggling with addiction. They either had great relationships and they lost relationships, or they had terrible relationships that they should have gotten rid of, right? And or the parents had relationships that were tumultuous that led them to addiction. But it was always relationships. And
yeah.
I thought, well, all we have to do is fix relationships. And
Mm, okay.
throughout my childhood, I would always be the friend who was managing the relationships of my other friends. Right at
Okay.
8 years old, I was on the phone in elementary school, making sure my friends got along, making sure they understood each other, making sure they found common ground. I think 11 years old, my mom had to get me my own phone line because
Wow.
managing relationships. The only kid in school that had his own phone line. In his room, I had like a business phone. You know those Cisco phones that you.
Yes.
I had a Cisco phone when it was $400 and they were hard to find
Woo.
in like my bedroom. So
So serious.
I've been doing this for a while because I think my mom's struggle put me in a position in an environment where I learned that empathy was the greatest gift you can give somebody, and guidance was the
Mhm,
second greatest gift you can give once you had empathy for a person.
yeah.
And I be a guide for people so that maybe they could avoid the situation that my mom found herself in, where the relationships weren't managed around her and she could manage her own. And ultimately, without that guidance, it led her down a very dark path that she had to recover from. She ultimately
Mhm,
did. Wanted to prevent those types of experiences from a very young.
okay. Wow. So from a young age, you just had to have put on that mature minded self. That's a pretty big load, but it's fantastic, and it's a blessing that you were able to carry it and manage it and navigate your way, with your friends and family that needed your help, because of your empathy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I guess it didn't feel like a load. It just feels like what I am.
Okay.
I always say whether a person is being offensive or not offensive, they're not being them to you, they're being them to the world, right?
Yeah.
Who are you to get a different version of them than they've given themselves and everyone else in the world that they've encountered, right? Because we get offended so easily when we encounter somebody who's, an a-hole or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've always been essentially Kev Hick. I've always been the relationship coach. I've just done that for people in my personal life. I've done that for my friends, for my family, for my circle, right?
Yeah.
For my mom at times. Like I've always been the counselor or the coach in certain situations. Now I'm being me to the world. I've offered that identity that I've found very useful and very comforting and fulfilling to strangers instead of just people I encounter on a daily basis through work or school.
That's awesome. I could kind of identify with that. I would say that as a kid, my parents, they were together for a little bit, and then, they had the back and forth thing. I remember at a young age, I was one kind of maybe counseling my mom. At some point, she would probably tell you that. And as I got older, I was a kid that hang around with like the older people. You didn't see me with like, people my age. It was always the little kids or the old folks. And you learn things from the old folks.
Absolutely.
And I learned a lot. And the things that I learned, I was able to counsel my friends, whether it was through relationship issues or what have you. Sometimes I find myself, maybe talking to someone maybe 10, 15, 20 years older than me. I'm like, maybe we should try this or try that or so forth. And in the middle of the night in college, I would have my friends knocking on my door like, Mish, can you talk? Can we talk? And I was always open to it. And I always tell my friends, I said, look, if you're going through something, relationship or whatever, you could always call me.
Right.
And they did. 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes they'll call me like, Mish, are you free? I'm like, yeah, we'll talk.
That,
Well, that, huh?
that, that portion of yourself, I'm sure, it doesn't feel like a burden. It just feels like
It,
you love being that for your people, for your family, for your circle. So it's kind of like
yes.
no
And
burden.
I'm glad that you cleared that up, because really when your heart is in it, it really does not feel like a burden. You're more than happy to really help and really
Mm-hmm.
give that advice, and knowing that you really inspire them to look into a situation so that they can kind of do better for themselves, or just overall just overcome whatever it is that they're going through. So I'm
Absolutely.
glad that you cleared that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I'm
And
so honor my gift. God gave me a gift. He gave me an ability to affect people in a positive way.
mhm.
Part of a good Samaritan, and I don't. As much as it might be obligatory for someone else, it's no obligation.
Right.
Me. I love being what I am. I love being called to do what I'm doing, which is
Mhm.
evolve and help pull people from their darkness, whatever it might be.
Yes. So we could end the interview right here. Not really, but yeah, that's a wonderful word. And those who are tuned in, I thank you for tuning in and listening and so forth. Sometimes they'll make comments, sometimes they're shy, but I thank you all for just being on. I see you guys are watching, tuned in, locked in. So, with all of what you said so far, that kind of goes into, these first set of questions I'm going to ask. You kind of answered it. What inspired you to become a relationship coach?
Mm-hmm.
You touched on that.
Yeah. Yeah, just watching usually the dark path that anyone ultimately ends up down, the thing that they need recovery from, the thing they need healing from, is you
Hmm.
some broken relationship, some form of relationship. It could be a family dynamic, it could be a friendship dynamic, it could be romantic, but it
Right.
could be coworkers, it could be any, but all the dynamics, the way humans interact with one another and develop an intimacy that sometimes serves them and sometimes doesn't. Those relationships, if poorly
Yes.
managed, can lead to suicide, drug addiction,
Hmm.
trauma of all kinds. And so, helping people manage their relationships is my number one goal, and it's the gift that I can give that doesn't cost me anything, and I'm really kind
Yeah.
of at the ready at all points. And so, I just feel very honored to have been given the mind and been given the heart to kind of guide people in that way.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. Well, what's your coaching like philosophy, and how do you approach relationships?
Philosophy. I'll be honest. I don't. I guess the word philosophy for me
Hmm.
feels like what the ego would tell itself
Okay.
conversation. Man, when I first started coaching, I didn't even want to coach. People begged me to take calls. People begged me to, because I had always done it for free for, people I know. I just been helping people. It's not a lot,
Right.
me. And so it took a lot for me to open myself up and say, well, I have to charge people because they're taking time away from my family. And if
Hmm.
myself to be used in that way by dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of strangers, I need to make sure I can at least pay my bills, right?
Right.
And giving that away without any compensation. Let's make them pay for the time. So the focus on pricing for me was the first hurdle I had to jump was, okay, you're charging people to be you. Okay.
Hmm.
And so like I had to get over that. So once I finally started coaching, my fear was being corrupted, right? Corrupted by the financial gain, because it wasn't the thing that I even considered before, but it was something you have to consider if you're going to start a business, especially if you have a family. I had 2 kids. I'm not about to be sitting up here on the phone for free.
Hmm.
I got stuff to do. We got to watch these kids. You going to help me? So it's like, nah. So my fear was being corrupted by what could be a very lucrative business. And it's oversold how lucrative it is, to be quite honest. It's oversold. If you're doing the right, charging people fair prices, you're not out here being rich. It's only one of
Hmm.
you're making an amount, but it's out here just rolling in dough, being rich. So
Right.
I was, but that was the fear of corruption. So my philosophy at first was just to make sure that I don't go into any conversation without God. So when I first started, it was really no philosophy about my ego or how I am, how wise I am. In fact, I prayed against anything that would make it about me. It's not
Hmm.
about to display my intelligence or my wisdom, perceived wisdom, or realized wisdom. It's about being a vessel and being a voice and allowing God to give me the message that a person needs, that he knows that they could have only gotten from me.
Right.
I would sit quietly and try to really connect with my spirit and my higher self and God before my calls when I first started, because I wasn't sure it was my ego that was helping people at this point, or was it just my calling. uh, Ultimately, I realized I don't have to sit in spirit as much to do these calls, that I am what I am, and I had to accept that. But it was a learning process. Are you someone who thinks you're smart and you're just telling people how to live their life because you think you know better, or are you a vessel letting God use you to affect you?
Hmm.
And I realized that it was a latter. But my philosophy is, it's not about Kevin. Is I'm a vessel. I'm helping people in the way that I've been assigned to help them, and God's voice will speak through me. No philosophy at
Right.
all. I
Okay.
was into to question how much ego I put into it. So I hope that helps. But
Yeah.
keep God first. That's the philosophy. What did
There
God?
you go. You got it. That's number one philosophy right there.
Mhm.
So that's great. That's awesome. So how do you help clients, identify and work through through patterns and obstacles in their relationship?
I think everybody's different.
Okay.
Everybody has a different challenge. Everybody has a different broken inner child, right? Um,
Mhm.
and so it's custom to everyone. Like I said, there's no philosophy. I really, one of my gifts is
Okay.
that I've recognized in myself and accepted that I have a skill of being able to find out what a person needs, even if they didn't know why they called me.
Mm.
And that right, and that's not, yeah, obviously that's God just using my discernment and helping me kind of go to the dark place that they might not have wanted to discuss. I have to figure out what a person needs if they're not clear. Some people are super clear about what they need. It's very easy. Other people
Yeah.
call, they think they're calling me about a boyfriend or a husband or a wife or sister or a coworker, but they're really calling me about, suicidal tendencies. Right? They didn't want to talk about that. They wanted to talk about this other person. Right? It's my job to essentially feel and empathize to such a degree that I can pull out the need, and I could and send my God energy, whatever God energy exists in me, to that unhealed place and help them realize the potential in themselves that they might not see. So everybody is different. There's no one size fits all. I'll talk to somebody. Maybe their issue is self-sabotage. Other people's issue is no boundaries. Other people's issue is self-hatred. Some people's issue is ego, right? I have to figure out how to not only find out what's truly wrong, what's going to give you the most peace and
Right.
the most deliverance from what's in what you're encountering. But then I have to find the language to tell you that and to communicate that without you leaving with closed ears, right? So
Mm-hmm.
adjusting my message for the language that the person communicates in and will hear most naturally without the resistance, and disarming
Mm-hmm.
those resistances is one thing that I'm trying to do. And the other
Okay.
one, again, customize the message, bait the hook for the fish, find the unhealed place and shed light there. Find the dark place and shine a
Mm-hmm.
flashlight to a degree. There's no one size fits all, though. It's all
I can,
different.
yeah. Because I mean, every couple, every individual, again, like you said, they each have their challenges,
Yeah,
and even if they have the same type of challenge, still the intricacies are very particular,
yeah,
and you have to tailor what you do to help them, you know, based on that.
yep.
Before I go on to the next question, I just want to say hello to our good friend Yoga with Goga. He's also a big time YouTuber. He says blessings, Mish and Kev.
Hey, love and respect. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, in terms of like relationship dynamics, what are some common challenges you see in relationships and how do you address them?
I think the most common challenges I see in relationships have to do with expectation,
Mhm.
um, and expecting us from other people,
Okay.
and non-acceptance being the second one. Not accepting who our person or partner is, and always having this version of them in our minds that they're supposed to aspire to, that they may
Mm-hmm.
not, but we want them to be that. And so we grow resentment for essentially a good enough person, a healthy enough person, a loyal enough person, right?
Okay.
We grow resentment to someone who's good enough right now, because instead of focusing on what they're good at and how they serve us in our life, and the things that they contribute to us, we're focused on what we don't have in them that our friend might have in their relationship. We're focused on what I see on TV, how those relationships look and are presented, and whether it's the bedroom life or the conversational life or the emotional life or the romance portion of it and the thoughtfulness, all these different concepts we have,
Right.
we always compare what we think other people are experiencing to what we're experiencing, and we lose sight of what good lives in our relationship and what value is
Mm-hmm.
offered on a very daily basis. It's okay to want our partners to evolve, but most of the time, if you're focused on what they don't have, then it's completely missed on you the blessings that you're receiving from a daily basis. And so expectation and non-acceptance are the two biggest relationship issues I encounter. And then people always say communication is like third. After you put down your expectations and you put
Right.
the need for a person to be something different than they are, then you can communicate what you need from them, what would fulfill you in the relationship. Most people aren't actually very good at communicating what their needs are.
Mm-hmm.
Communicate the problem, right? But
Good
in
point.
relationships, it's more of a do this, not that. Most people don't say do this, not that. They just tell you what you didn't do right. Right?
Right.
There's no solution. It's just a complaint. And I know from being a man who tries to be mindful, is always thinking of other people, can put myself in everyone's shoes. I don't know what to do with a complaint in and of itself by itself in isolation from some kind of answer or some kind of solution. So if I don't know what to do with a problem that is absent of a solution, I know most people who lack awareness or who are busy with their job or who are also frustrated with the relationship in all these different circumstances don't know what to do with just a complaint. So you have two people who haven't accepted each other, who have an expectation of them from other people, who then don't know how to communicate the solution to the thing that's ailing them and the problem. And they just offer issues and offer nagging to their
Mhm.
partner. And their partner is supposed to learn how to be different and better with nagging. And so I think those are the three biggest issues in relationships. In non-relationships, most of the time, it's a person's self-esteem, falling in love with the emotionally unavailable because we don't
Right.
actually respect and love and admire and care for who we are enough to to put reverence on the idea that someone should desire us fully and completely and give us their best. I've
Mhm.
always liked myself. I've always had really great self-esteem. Maybe that's bad. Maybe that's good for some people. I don't care. I like me. I like
Yeah.
I like who I've always been, and it's because I do things that I'm proud of. I make myself proud. I make God proud. That those are my gifts, and those are my goals, and those are my functions. Right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm not proud of myself, my self-esteem dips. But that doesn't
Right.
happen often. I say out there to say, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of myself, I've only ever allowed myself to like people and chase people or desire people who
Mm-hmm.
saw me what I saw in myself.
Okay.
And someone said, "Why'd you choose your wife?" And there's some scuttlebutt because my wife is mixed, and she's not dark enough for some people. And there's a whole we can
Mm-hmm.
dig that. They were why did you choose your wife? And someone, if Hick's a colorist, that's why he chose her. Because you like no, because my girlfriend behind in front of her was a chocolate drop. So that's not what's going on. I don't actually have a type, but I always tell people I loved my wife and I fell in love with my wife because she saw the same king in me that I saw when I look in the mirror. When I saw myself in the mirror, I saw greatness. I saw royalty. I saw a God. My wife saw those things in me. And I didn't have to explain
Amen.
to her the value of what I was. She knew what I was. She knew who I was and whose I was. And that's the difference. But you
Mm-hmm.
had to do that to get me. You couldn't have done anything but that to get me because I was going to offer that same awareness to the person that I gave my affections to. I say
Mm-hmm.
all that to say the biggest problem in non-relationships is that people don't have high enough self-esteem or vast enough more most aware enough self-image that when people don't see greatness in them and they treat them like a commoner, they treat them like a peasant, they accept it,
Mm-hmm.
they're chasing that person's acceptance instead of accepting themselves
Mm-hmm.
and seeking more healthy mindsets and more natural availability in other people. So falling in love with the emotional unavailable has more to do with you not necessarily having the best relationship with self and not requiring that because you can't actually relate to admiring yourself or having a deep adoration or reverence for yourself, so you don't expect it from others. I expect it from others because I have it for myself. So that's
Right.
the issue in dating that I encounter. Sorry I went long.
No, it's perfect. Look, I don't have any restrictions. All what you said is valid. It's great. It's something. It's what people need to hear. So honestly, I'm kind of thinking, even kind of backtrack. I'm kind of going off script with some of the questions that I had. Um, Before we even enter the dating phase, you touched on it. What do you recommend that we be? Before we even enter the dating phase, because you kind of touched on some things that are really important, characteristics to have, being having self-esteem and so forth. What are your recommendations? What would you have to say about that?
I think you have to have self-acceptance
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost, and you also have to recognize the difference between your imperfections and your flaws. All right, and
Yeah.
to a degree, we think all imperfections are flaws, and it challenges self-acceptance, and that shame then finds itself as a kind of a blockade against our progress, and so we never actually address the things that make us less proud of ourselves, and we
Mm-hmm.
a function of dysfunction and non-self-acceptance. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
the things you don't like about your look
Mm-hmm.
are imperfections.
Okay.
Things you don't like about your character are flaws, right?
Distinction.
We need to understand that our imperfections don't disallow us or create some unworthiness to love. Like we can be imperfect and still extremely lovable and deserving of love, deserving of the greatest thing, best things. To be
Mm-hmm.
flawed and to lack character, to lack morals, values, integrity, those things, we need to separate those from our basic imperfections. And I think in addressing our character flaws specifically, those are the things that will create in us what I would consider the obstacle for someone loving you back, because those are the things that will attack and harm others. So,
Right.
first and foremost, before you get into a relationship, distinguish your imperfections from your flaws because they're not one and the same. That's not an interchangeability right there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, to that degree, address your flaws, learn how to accept your imperfections.
Okay.
Address your flaws, learn how to accept your imperfections. You need to grow, you need to evolve, you need to get better. That's true. But most people grow and evolve and get better in the things that are imperfections and not flaws. We
Mm-hmm.
we want to lose weight. That's an amazing thing. Lose weight if you're out of shape. That's an imperfection. That's
Okay.
not necessarily a flaw because it doesn't harm anyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily harmed by it unless, again, you've accepted it as a part of your identity. You're under
Okay.
no obligation to be what you are today, tomorrow. You can change any day, every day
Mm-hmm.
you have a choice. But when we confuse our imperfections and our flaws, the things we can't change versus the things we can change, we go down a rabbit hole of darkness. You can
Mm-hmm.
you can accept the portions of you that are without change and can't be changed, but you can also do something about the things that you have full power over. And I think that we just don't spend enough time working on the things that we can change. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can,
Mm-hmm.
versus change the things I can, and the wisdom know the difference. That serenity prayer, I don't know
Right.
how we say it at church, we say it at AA or NA, but we don't actually function. We need to function in changing the things that we have control of. And I think most of the time we just don't address those things. And if you're going to be in a relationship, you have to
Mm-hmm.
be willing to address the things that are within your control to offer
Yes.
health to a relationship, because a relationship requires evolution. You have to learn how to change, learn how to address things, learn how to inconvenience yourself with evolution, because you're going to have to evolve with and for your partner, and they're going to have to do the same for you. And without that skill set, you can't have a healthy relationship or offer one. And so that's the only thing that I put in front of somebody as it pertains to before you try to date or before you try to find love. Be willing to address your flaws and accept your imperfections.
Right. Basically, be real with yourself, like for real.
Absolutely.
Be content with yourself. Look
Mhm.
into yourself, see what you need to improve,
Mhm.
and just be real. Because if you're not really being honest with yourself when you look in the mirror when it comes to dating, all you're gonna do is it's just gonna be damage.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because you can't expect the other person to fix you.
Yeah, and the things you don't accept about yourself, they normally won't accept either. And so
Right.
most of the time, I find people resent other people for not accepting the things about themselves that they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Accepted it. Why should a random stranger find themselves inconvenienced by these things that you've not accepted and you've been you for 35 years?
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, my mom, before I go on, my mom, she's under control. She's saying, "Welcome, co-host. We're happy to have you here."
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Well, that's great. Well, what should I say? My question is, kind of talking about, the prerequisites of, going into a relationship and so forth. Can you share a success story of a client, who made significant progress, in their relationship?
Hmm. Yeah. The most recent, I think, the most emotional, most impactful of recent, a couple of months ago, and I have success stories every day, but a couple of months ago, um, I got a final update from one of my clients. It's not final. I'll talk to her again. I talk to her periodically, but
Right.
last year I met a woman who had some sexual traumas and some violent sexual abuse that existed during her childhood, and also one specifically on her wedding night with a man that she hadn't been with, who decided to be violent with her and
Wow.
uh, you know grape her on
Hmm.
the wedding night. And that, coupled with the years and decades of physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse in her childhood, it put her in a position where her body would literally seize up when a man would try to like touch her or give her affection,
Hmm.
even on a date. Some people hug on the first date. Like, it was zero touching, zero kissing, zero anything. And
Wow.
the level of grace she would have needed from today's man, the man, generally the entitled man, right? Men expect sex from
Hmm.
random people that they've never even had a conversation with. Now they just expect to say, "Hi, I'm Ricky. Let's go over there in the closet." Like, that's how men act now. They're just so
Hmm.
entitled because they've been given so much access that
Hmm.
she was thinking she started, and she said, "Kev, I don't know if I'll ever. I don't know if the man exists with the
Hmm.
passion and grace that I need for somebody to not be able to even hold hands with me for the
Wow.
few weeks or first few months, to get
Hmm.
from not holding hands, not touching at all, to where a man hopes to be, which is in an intimate, loving, vulnerable, free-flowing relationship that we share affections. And I worked with her she did my 3-month program, and I worked with her I think she might have did it twice. But man, I'm happy to report she's not only in a relationship, she actually found a man that kind of does what I do a little bit, but uh,
Right.
on the doctor side, and he
Okay.
he had grace, he had all these things, but it was a process, learning to, or helping her to learn how to accept masculine energy, creating a plan for her to put herself in positions that physically she could turn her nervous system away from freezing when a person touched her that she didn't know.
Right.
We had physical challenges, nervous system, neurological challenges, and that neurological feedback would be very traumatic and literally freeze her stiff as a board if a person touched her. So, like, we had layers, emotional, physical, mental,
Yeah.
even spiritual stuff that come. But after working with me, we attack everything on all layers. Like, we just go from step by step by step, what to do in this situation, how to communicate the issue you're having, how to respond to your body shutting down, what specific things that you can do to retrain your body to accept affection, how to work through and talk through these moments and scenarios when you're uncomfortable without sending a man for the hills, how to figure out how to
Mhm.
race while you need so much right now, how to make
Wow.
it both of you. Like, there's a lot of layers to this stuff. People think
Mhm.
I make YouTube videos about how to tell if a guy likes you, and then I'm on the phone kikiing with women, kicking my feet up like we
Mm.
girlfriends, and simping, or whatever a man might consider helping women because he hates himself and despises his community's health. The point is
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
experience people at all levels of trauma, and a portion of what I do is help them navigate that trauma, and heal themselves through new actions, habits, patterns, and practices. And so that's I'm most proud of that, because I don't know if I've met a woman so hopeless and so
Mm. Mhm.
down, and also so physically
Yeah.
control her trauma, that after we worked the plan, we got her into, I think,
Yeah.
jujitsu. So she would get used to being in physical positions with men around or men on her, learning how to control her physical reaction to men appearing to be in dominant position. Like, we had to do a lot of stuff, but she's
Wow.
grown and really has experienced a lot of success in this. And now she's in a healthy relationship with a wonderful human being that
That's great.
for all the grace, and now she's sharing affections again. She's been able to overcome all of the different traumas to function in a relationship. She's also one of the best communicators I've ever met in my life.
That's
uh,
awesome.
so there's that. So she had a lot of skills. She had a lot to offer a person, and a man specifically. She just didn't know if she would be accepted based on all
Mhm.
it would take to get through her barriers and walk through fire for her
Right.
traumas. And I think she's found a person with my help and with my coaching through the dates, the talking, the scenarios, the physical freezes, all of those things. And I'm really just
Yeah.
how I've helped her. And I've done that for a few women, specifically with those issues neurologically, especially.
That's great. And thank you for sharing that, because you kind of answered the next question I was going to ask you. You basically answered it. I was going to ask you, what's the most rewarding part of being a relationship coach?
Uh,
Is basically, helping women, men overcome,
yeah,
you know, those struggles and those challenges that they come against in a relationship, or even to have a relationship.
yeah, restoring hope in the hopeless, helping
Mm-hmm.
people. That's what they're capable of. That's the most rewarding thing for me. Um, just people, when you meet people who have only experienced loss, or who just haven't had a win, right? The absence of
Mm-hmm.
a feels like all loss, right? People who
Mm-hmm.
stop themselves, I think that me being able to restore hope and restore self belief, and or obviously change and restore an experience from negative to
Right.
positive, uh, to a degree. I don't like to say it, but I've been told enough, hundreds if not thousands of times, that I've changed a lot of lives.
Wow.
And it's not Kevin. It's the spirit that animates my avatar, right?
Right.
We're just these bodies are just bodies. We have a spiritual assignment. I like to be in my spirit at all times, and I think that my spirit has offered itself to a great amount of healing to other spirits, and so that's the most rewarding part, is that I feel like I'm doing what I was thrown on this earth to do, and I don't think a lot of people can say that, but I can say that proudly, and you
Right.
know, helping more people.
That's great. And a lot of people are tuned in, and I just want to just give them a little shout out because I would like to share your page so that, if people are wanting to follow you, they
Yeah,
know where to go, they know what it would look like because, sometimes you put the name in there and other things come up. But I
yeah,
just want to make sure to shout out these people, and then I'm going to share your page. So, thanks to Goga, Yoga with Goga, for coming in and tune in. Thank you so much. We got Mama Fisher, which is my mom. She's on the control in the chat room. And we also had another person that tuned in, Aquarian. Thank you so much for tuning in. And then there are a lot of other people who are watching. They may not be in the chat. I call them their silent listeners. So
yeah.
thank you to the silent listeners for tuning in.
Most
All
people
right.
are.
And if you're wanting to follow Kev Hick, like on YouTube, I still have a few questions, but
Yeah,
I like to share the page so that in the middle of this interview so that people kind of see and know, who you are and what you do.
yeah.
Hold on a second. Let me kind of switch this up here on the StreamYard app. Doing a whole bunch of things back here. All these buttons suppressed. There we go. I think that might be better. And then let me share it again. All right, there we go. Here we go. This is your YouTube channel. Tell me if you see it.
Yeah.
Okay, great, great, great. So yeah, if you're wanting to follow him on YouTube, this is Mr. Kev Hick, and there's a whole bunch of goodies on here. You have a whole bunch of tutorials and just videos on like different dating rules and so forth. You have another channel.
Yeah. We I used to do a podcast called The Fatherhood Village. We're
Okay.
men. We're trying to build community around the idea of the responsibilities and the obligations and the service
Hmm.
that a man is supposed to provide his family, but also his community. We take a pause from it because I've moved, my friends moved. We're kind of all over the country right now,
I
but
got you.
we'll be resuming the Fatherhood Village and becoming better with Kev Hick right now. So, Kev Hick, you see me there with the mountain in the back. That's my honeymoon picture in Jamaica. Um,
Oh,
been
sweet.
out
My
for
family's Jamaican, so that's great.
yeah, I was
Great.
looking at. I was at Grand Palladium in Montego Bay, so
Okay.
that's me on the beach there. But that's the main channel. That's the older channel. It's
Right.
670 or 600, yeah, 670 videos or something like that on there, something around that. It's a lot of videos. And then the one, if you scroll down, becoming better together with Kev Hick. That's the
Hmm.
picture. That's the page I dabbled on, but now I'm doing a few videos a week on that channel where I'm answering viewer questions and helping men and women navigate a few things. So there's a few new videos on there too. So both channels I'm uploading new videos on. And
Hmm.
you want Q&A, the sepia tone picture of my face. I got the resting
Yes.
B face. That's for Q&A. And the other one is just for all the other dating concepts.
Got it. Okay. Great. And I'm just kind of scrolling down, but yeah, you got to, because I started following you. I want to say, oh, it feels as though it's been maybe about 4 years is when I came across your channel.
Mhm.
And I come across a lot of little relationship channels, and there's some great people out there,
Yeah.
but I have to say you and there's maybe two others that I feel as though really give some really great, like, solid advice, and it's realistic, it's current, because the dating world has changed. It's
Yeah.
not the same like back in the day where they're courting was really focused on. It's different. So, your dating advice, I would say that it really kind of it stays current. That's
Yeah.
what I feel, and it's really solid. So
Yeah.
yeah, you can see a whole lot of videos, 7 ways to protect yourself from damaged men. Was there anyone in particular that you really that stood out to you that you've done?
I've done over 600. So
Yes, all of them. Check them all out.
yeah, I always do them with the client in mind. Like I said, I'm a coach who does
Yes.
the other way around. A lot of people do content and then, you know, they coach on the side or they don't coach at all, but they just think of really great things to say. I'm actually having these conversations. So all of my videos are inspired by someone I've spoken to or a concept I've had to work through with someone. And so they all stand out to me because they all represent a real person
Yes.
and a real
Yeah.
struggle.
Okay, that's great. I mean, and that kind of blankets over what I would have asked you next. You know, how do you stay current with industry trends and developments in relationship coaching? I
I,
mean, you touched on that
I
a little
don't.
bit.
I don't give a crap about. I'm not. That's why I'm not viral. If you look at and
Uh-huh.
like I separated from YouTube for about a year. So if you look at my views now, my views are on the ground right now. But I used to be pretty big on YouTube. You know, I used to get a lot of views.
Mhm,
But I've always refused. Like I don't care about what's trending. I care about
mhm,
helping the person I just got off the phone with, or someone who identifies like them, someone
mhm,
struggling with a similar thing. That's what I care about. I do not care about. I don't even watch other relationship content. Like I have some creators that have shown me love, and I have like a colleague type of relationship with that I really respect. I don't watch their
right.
videos. I don't watch competition videos. I don't watch. I don't watch any of it because first of all, I think brilliance is. I don't want to be
Mhm,
somebody else's gift because it sounded good, and I want to make sure I get the views and I get credit for those ideas too. And sometimes you don't see yourself mimicking, but it's possible. Like we all are corruptible, and when we find something good, and a part of kind of protecting the integrity of my stuff is just making sure I live in my mind and I experience what my clients are going through, and I come from.
mhm,
I don't want to come from Stephen Speaks spirit. I don't want to come from Tony Gaskin spirit. I don't want to be
mhm,
whoever else is smart or you know. And again, I don't have a relationship with either of those guys. Don't know them. Never talked to them. Uh,
right.
who I'm just saying whoever. I'm not interested in mimicking anyone.
Got
Um,
it.
what certain people are doing. Certain people are giving good advice. Certain people are trying to help. I don't agree with everything certain people say, even though I can recognize the wisdom in there. But as far as the
Mhm,
dating, I'm not viral because I don't do trends. I just help. My assignment is to help. It's not to be viral or follow trends. God will send whoever needs to hear my content to me.
right. And honestly, I could get that energy because a lot of your videos, you do say that. You're like, I could care less what they say or what have you. This is how I feel as though it should go.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a great spirit to have to march to the beat of your own drum. And I mean, it's really important, especially when you're in the midst of creating and doing what you do. You really have to just sometimes just hone into, okay, you have to just listen to what your inner self is saying. Like you said, you're led by God's spirit. I know you mentioned that sometimes you have to just kind of like be to yourself and just kind of open yourself up to what he's saying and how to deal with the person that's in front of you. It's a blessing when you can do that, and it's a blessing when you're confident. When you have that self-esteem and that discernment to be open and be his vessel, so to speak, to kind of help these people that are coming to you for
yeah,
that assistance in their relationship or for dating or what have you.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So my question is, with all of what you do, how do you prioritize self-care and personal growth as a relationship coach? Because I know you're doing a lot. At what point do you make time for self-care and all of those things?
I don't know. Sometimes I like to think that. Well, I like to think I'm making time, but the truth is, I don't always make time for self care, and that's one of the battles. I think, like they always say, the mechanic never fixes his own car, the carpenter never fixes his own home. Um, it's always a challenge for someone who offers the gift to ultimately give that same grace to themselves. To that degree, my function has always been kind of like the idea of the preacher's wife or family. We've known a lot of preachers, a lot of get great, gifted, impactful men who saved the world, but their home is falling apart. Right. So
Mm. Mm-hmm.
when I'm not serving other people, I'm serving my family, and
Right.
that doesn't leave a lot of space for me. But
Mm-hmm.
is it to gain the world and lose your soul? What good is it to gain the world and lose your home?
Right.
I focus the self care for me is making sure my family's straight, making sure my family's straight. Sorry, making sure my kids feel loved, making sure that I show up when they need me, making sure I'm present. I'm not always the greatest, the most perfect at it, but my intention,
Right.
family feels the love and grace that I've given to the world, and that they're not like, oh yeah, he's really great with other people, but he ain't really putting in around here. That's
Yeah.
that's I was. second to corruption, my fear was being better to strangers than I am to my family. And so
Mm-hmm.
that I give them their time. And sometimes that just means that, like today on Sunday mornings and Saturday mornings, since I get up earlier than everyone in the house, I take those first few hours of the day and I sit and or I catch up on the things that I like to do, or I
Right.
in those times. But I don't necessarily have a space outside of like Sundays when I generally work out. I don't have a space of time where that I allot myself. But how it falls is on the weekends. I generally
Mhm.
get to sit in the quiet for a few hours, and that's how I decompress. In the
That's You're doing something, and that's most important because you can't give from an empty cup. I tell all of my guests, they're always, people who are doing for the community, doing for the people around them, but you can't give and then have nothing and then expect to give. There's a point where you have to sit and recharge a little bit.
There's also a cycle that I find myself that's very consistent. For the last 8 years, I realize that
Hmm.
about every 6 weeks, almost without fail, I go into an antisocial type of mood. And antisocial
Mm,
psychology, so I'm using this lightly. Antisocial personality disorder is way different, and than we. But outside of the
introverted phase.
right, I go into about every 6 weeks. I go into I just don't want to be bothered phase because I've given and given and given, and then week 6, I'm like I ain't got nothing else to give. I'm gonna take it back for myself, and
Mhm.
so that's the only predictable pattern outside of my Sunday and Saturday mornings. That's the only predictable pattern where I decompress, and it's not even intentionally. It's really just kind of how things. It's involuntary, but that's one of those things that I do take every 6th week, and energetically, I just kind of shut down and give it back to myself. And I find that that helps me. I expect it. It happens. I feel it when it comes. I don't set a date. It just hits me, but it works out.
Well, that's good. Something hits you and kind of pulls you back. Say, hey, you gotta reset. Well, that's great. I only have like maybe a few more questions, and I know that we mentioned, if you had time, even for like 10 minutes, just a quick Q&A,
Yeah,
to transition to other social media, to Instagram, you would be available even for just 10 minutes.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's great. So, what I would like to ask you, kind of, what should I say? What what should I My question was, what are the dating tips you've given that you use during the dating phase with your now wife?
Um, I would say safe sex for people you love, or who have grown love for you. At the very least,
Mhm,
I know everybody is with their varying levels of uh, biblical standard that people are following. Um,
mhm.
but at the very least, in this extremely liberal world that we live in now, at the very least, if you want to prevent as much trauma as possible, at least consummate the exchange of love.
Mhm.
Wait till love has been established before you get in bed with somebody. At very least, just if we just did that, there's so much less trauma. Most of the time, users weed themselves out.
Mhm.
They don't have the patience. They weed themselves out. People are fickle. Let them fall away, but we
Yeah.
stop just giving it to everybody, and that's men and women, because we all
Yeah.
take in ourselves a certain spiritual element of every person we encounter. Sometimes we take their darkness home with us. So outside of the spiritual implications, the emotional ones, there's a lot of trauma involved in
That's
not
true.
achieving a relationship, but having shared the bed with someone that you thought you would achieve a relationship with. So
Mhm.
that's one of them. Obviously, you have to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, this world will tell you. And so, waiting for your partner or your prospective partner to tell you who you are, in the absence of being sure about that yourself, is a recipe for disaster because you're giving whoever might walk into your life the power to decide your identity. That's why we have some
Mhm.
people walking around here because you've let a random 12 or 13 people come and decide you're either
Mm.
good enough. And I think that we have to decide who we are and what we feel about that before we encounter prospects. And so those are maybe the two biggest, most trauma avoiding concepts that I've shared with people in
Okay.
millions. words and hours of conversation. Uh,
Mm-hmm. I gotcha. Well, that's a great word of advice for those who are listening and tune in. And my last question is, what is your go-to quote or mantra that you kind of live by?
you are the master of all your unspoken words and the slave to those which should have remained unsaid. Um, and Anger does much more damage to the vessel it's contained in than anything it can be poured upon. Those are
Mm,
my two favorite quotes. And
wow.
so one deals with being careful with your words and understanding the power of the tongue, right?
Oh yes.
Is in the tongue, and the other one deals with handling your emotions and your anger and making sure that you don't destroy yourself, lacking mercy and or grace for others. So
Right.
those two concepts keep you in a biblically balanced place, and
Mm-hmm.
they also, for me, make sure that I don't misuse my gift or corrupt it. Because I think when I was younger, I was always, I would say, gifted, but if I got angry, I could use the power of my voice to break somebody down. And there
Mm-hmm.
were occasions I did that in elementary school or middle school or even in high school once or twice that I've never forgotten those moments. And I'm a slave to those moments because my tongue has been a clear message from God that I'm here to create life with my words. And
Yes.
so managing my anger and the
Mhm.
level the mercy I give others and managing my words are the two things that I live. Uh, I live with the obligation of maintaining, and I think those are my two favorite quotes. If you're asking about specifically what I live
Yeah.
by,
That's wonderful. That's a mouthful right there. Look, if you go by those two quotes, I mean that would steer you clear from a whole lot of drama. And I'm sure it has steered you clear from a lot of drama as well.
yeah,
My mom says she loved that. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. She says she loved that. So
yeah,
yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And again, this has been a great interview. And I can't thank you enough for really taking the time out for us to, for me to interview you and just to kind of share what you do to
mhm,
our audience.
yeah,
You know, if you're tuned in, make sure that you go to his page on YouTube, Kev Hick. And if you missed it, you can definitely go back. I'm going to share it one more time. And also, if you have any other social media platforms, or if they're wanting to reach out to you, please share with us where they can follow you and kind of stay in touch and even use your services if they need it, you
yeah.
know.
So you can reach me quickly at Instagram at KevHick24. And we're about to go over there. And I got until about 6:30, so that's fine. We can get there.
Okay, great.
So at KevHick24 on Instagram, at KEVHICK24 on Instagram is where I generally take DMs, and I do check my DMs on a regular basis. And if you wanted to book a call and skip the small talk, you could go to www.kevhick.com, and that's where you book calls, get coaching, and um, kind of get a space on my schedule.
I'm going to ask you to share that again, the website, so I can maybe share that screen as well. Can you repeat it again?
www.kevhick.com, KEVHICK.com.
Okay. Let me find it first before I share it. Let me make sure this is it. Okay. Yep. This is it here. All right. Now I can share it. Share screen. All these buttons. But it's all good. I can get it done. I've done it long enough. All right. Did it come up yet? No, not yet. Trying to get it. Did it? Okay. I think it's coming up. Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. So you said this is your website where they could just book, you could book a call,
Mm.
and what else?
Yeah, you can book a call and get coaching. I do email advice, video calls, phone calls, half hours, hours. Some people do get like 3-month programs where they work with me continuously for 3 months. I do unlimited text messaging packages, or like 1 monthly call or 2 monthly calls. It's a few different options on there to
Yeah.
I mean, whether you want a one-off call or a long-term kind of situation.
Okay, great. Well, there you have it. So this is his website you can go to. Again, he mentioned Instagram, YouTube, and all of those great resources. So definitely check in. And if you need help in your relationship or some coaching with dating, check him out for sure. Well, thank you once again. And I know you said you have until 6:30. So yes, what I'm going to do is, because the page, the IG page that I messaged you on, I'm gonna request I'm gonna send a message from my other personal page.
Okay.
There is more like my family and friends that are on there.
Okay.
The page that I DM'd you on, it's more of like, it's really new. So, I think it's best to just kind of use my other IG page, which is the same name, So Royal Niche. It just don't have all those other little icons on there. So
Okay.
you'll see it. And then from there on, we can maybe go live there a little bit and maybe answer some questions in terms of like dating and all that good stuff.
Okay. Just send me a DM. I'll follow you, and then when you go live, I'll jump on and request.
I will for sure. So as I started my this session with prayer, I usually close out with prayer as well. So if you don't mind, we would close out this lovely, lovely interview. It was definitely inspiring. I'm sure I'm gonna get the calls now. Like, Mish, I need his help. give me some relief. All right, there we go. There was probably just want to give you praise and thanks for allowing Mr. Kev Hick to come on. And again, just share his love for helping people navigate their relationship and being able to get assistance in their dating life and so forth. We ask that you may continue to bless him and his family, help them to be able to maintain and stand so that he could continue to do the work that you have called him to do. We ask you all these great things in his name. Amen.
Man.
All right. So everybody, we all see you. So if you're connected to me on Instagram, you'll be seeing us live again there. All right, guys. Take care. And I'll see you soon again. Peace.
The family that prays together will stay together. Remember, at the Body's Family YouTube is a rise. When we say like, subscribe. This is us and what we do. What? This is us and what we do. What? This is us and what we do. Hold on, them have name out the two. Hold on, them Mama Fisher, So Royal Meat. You bless. Macho Man Blaze and Little Princess. This is a YouTube channel are the best. Yes, YouTube channel are the best. Remember, we pray together, vacate together, every day together. Come and watch we play together. Like, subscribe. Remember, you're not gonna top laugh till your belly hurt you. Again, hey, this is us and what we do. What? This is us and what me say sometimes. Me say, oh God. Me I wonder which one of them have sense. I don't know. Alright, sit down and watch that episode. Remember, like, subscribe, and we need to hear from you. Leave a comment. We are encourage every other family to do what we are doing too. We family happy. The family that prays together will stay together. Remember, at the Body's Family YouTube is a rise. When we say like, subscribe. This is us and what we do. What? This is us and what we do. What? This is us and what we do. Hold on, them have name out the two. Hold on, them Mama Fisher, So Royal Meat. You bless. Macho Man Blaze and Little Princess. This is a YouTube channel are the best. Yes, YouTube channel are the best. Remember, we play together, vacate together, every day together. Come and watch we play together. Like, subscribe. Remember, you're not